Pete Bruce is MIA this week, but seeing as this is show business, the show must go on. So joining Double Door co-owner Sean Mulroney is partner Mike Carlson. He's a music fan, so he's always welcome to jump in. If you're nostalgic for the way things really get done in Chicago, Sean has a story about beating fire codes that will warm your cold February in the Windy City heart. This is episode 10. The Double Door podcast has officially made it to double digits, so you know it's legit. Here's Sean Mulroney and Mike Carlson.
Hey, guys, this is Sean Mulroney. We're back with our podcast live from the Double Door, and sitting here with me is the incredible James Van Osdol, and Pete Bruce is normally has sat at this table to make both of us look foolish, is being replaced, if that's possible, with my other partner, Mike Carlson. Say hi, Mike.
Hey, how are you doing?
So, we've been going for a couple reasons. One was first of the holidays, and people have other things to do. And although this may be the only thing I think about, you guys have a life too. But then this variant came along, and we wanted the dust to settle a little bit on that, so we could do these live shows, and we're back. But I guess that's why we're taking some time. But I thought with Mike here, maybe it's kind of an interesting story how Mike we've become fast friends over the last year or so of getting this thing together. But this came out of the blue, out of nowhere. So Mike, why don't you tell them why you're here?
I'm here because I love music, and I love the Double Door. I started going to Double Doors in the 90s and just loved it. And when I heard they were closing, I was bummed. One of my good friends from high school played at Double Door a couple times, actually 4 or 5 times. So I asked him for Sean's number. Got Sean's number, started chatting.
Persistent motherfucker.
That's kind of, maybe not annoying, but somewhere close to annoying. But I was just really interested. I love music. Kind of on my bucket list, I have a concert hall and a bar, and I'm getting 2 in 1. And like I said, always loved the Double Door. I love the bands, love the live music.
He lives in the neighborhood.
Exactly, and I live less than 5 minutes away, so everything's good.
The other thing about Mike's another handy guy. So Pete and Mike do all the hard work, and I get to be the smiling face that complains about his bad back. I don't have a bad back, but I've been using that. So we're thinking, what do we talk about after being down for a few weeks? And a couple things come to mind. And the way this works, Mike, anything that pops in your head, you start talking.
That sounds good.
So when you say you love music stories are fair game on all levels.
All right.
So I'm going to start with a music story. I was reminded of this, The Darkness. If you guys don't know them, please Google them. They are bringing metal back I can't even say that anymore. They've been a while, but they were the ones that kind of out of nowhere, this band called The Darkness booked Double Door, and I think it was a weeknight, a Wednesday, Thursday night or something. And when you have a club like Double Door, I always know when I'd better be at the show that night with a band I never heard of, when all of my sound and production staff go, dude, you better be here tonight. So thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Lori. At any rate, so I went, and they're from, what were they, from Sweden, I think? They're the only band still does multiple costume changes as the front man from one jumpsuit to another. I mean, this is David Lee Roth shit. But so the way we were sitting here at 6 o'clock at night, loading is usually 4 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon, particularly with a big band. They had a hit then right now, which, James, what was that called?
I Believe in a Thing Called Love.
They were top of the charts with that song. And they're not here at 6 o'clock. They're from Europe. And I think they might have done a New York show first, but I think we might have been the first U.S. show.
Wow.
So at 6 o'clock, it was either a UPS or a FedEx truck pulled up out front of Double Door, and they start unloading these big crates and boxes that said The Darkness. I'm like, well, the gear made it. I don't know if the band's going to make it, but are they coming through customs or whatever? But for crying out loud, they got on stage, and it happened a lot, but they rocked my freaking world. I listened to their record. I still do. I put it on, I asked, Alexa? I asked her to play it for recently, and it was which made me think of this. So at any rate, that's one of those things about stories at Double Door that you hear about, that you don't hear about because you love the band, but you don't hear about the craziness behind the scene. Let's talk about, so the last time we talked to you, I think we'd gotten some news about what we had to do for Double Door to accommodate the structural situation. So we decided to tout the downsized plan as if it were the best thing since Moses parted the Red Sea. But in fact, we don't have to downsize it because the way this, it's insanity. Our architect is a PhD in architecture. So Matt, Dr. Matt, is handling us. He knows co stuff better. So I said to Pete, I go, hey, you know, because we had a meeting with them, and now we have plans that are a go. I guess that's the point of the story that makes a difference. But the good, funny part of the story, I go, you know, Pete, he's not like us. And he goes, what do you mean? I go, well, he doesn't really have a sense of humor. He's obviously not very fun. And Pete goes, yeah, but he's a doctor and he's really smart. I go, I take it back. He's our guy. I go, well, I didn't mean he wasn't our guy. He's actually phenomenal. But he's taking this thing and running with it, and he's going to turn out something that, what he said to us is like, this is even better, guys, because we're not going to mess with any of the cool shit. I think he said, we won't destroy or move any of the classical effects of this sort of building, which was never, I'm like, no, cool shit. You're not going to fool with the cool shit. So we got good news, and it reminded me, when I opened Double Door, and these are kind of things, I'll bring these stories back because when we do these things, we start to get into construction mode. I think about, how do we open Double Door? I told a story about sitting with the owner, Harry Strauss, with my cousin and partner, and drinking shitty beer for about 3.5 weeks straight every day and paying for every beer until he got drunk enough to say we could have the room. But what people don't realize that it didn't look anything like Double Door. It was actually 3 businesses. There was a liquor store, which was Double Door Liquors, and in the back they call them tap rooms. That was tap rooms before. People call them tap rooms now because you come some snappy brew house that's going to overcharge you for gag beer. But in this case, the front room, Double Door Liquors, had bulletproof glass that had a pivoting window that you would put your money in it, and the window would pivot around. They would take your money, put the change, and pivot your purchase back, your 6-pack or your pint or whatever it was. And trust me, the selection was pretty slim. There was stuff. There was Ripple, there was Malt Duck, there was Mad Dog 4040. Was that right? These things. It was that place. So the tap room was called Main Street's Pub, and it was an outlaw hangout known for stabbings. It had the record for stabbings in that police district. And then there were hookers upstairs. So I think I told you that part. But what I didn't tell you is that when we tore the walls down for the 2 storefronts and made it all one room, is that we're building out, and it was just a buddy of ours named Jeff Beyer, who was I remember him at about 7.5 feet tall, 400 pounds, bald, looked like Mr. Clean on steroids. But he was, that's my memory, I'll leave it with that. But he was a really, really great guy he was a carpenter, but had never built anything kind of his own. He worked for other guys, but he was a big guy. He had a pickup truck. He got the job because he had a pickup truck. So we would go to Home Depot every day and load up his pickup truck, and that's how we built Double Door. And we didn't really have any plans per se. We did have rough drawings but they were just repair and replace stuff. So Jeff Beyer, who now has a company called Bulletproof Construction, and last I heard, doing great. He pops up every night, but amazing man. Anyway, so we're building this thing, and we had virtually no money. So we designed ourselves, we built ourselves. I tiled the bathrooms, I painted the walls, and we get the thing done, and we do a big opening with Lloyd Cole. We had amazing first couple months, Billy Corgan and the Smashing Pumpkins. I think we had, I don't know, I can't even, it was just one great show after another. And then after we got the run, we get our first post-opening inspection, and the fire department goes, you guys never saw it, but there was a beautiful tin ceiling across the entire roof inside of Double Door. No, not a dent or scratch. It had been untouched. It was absolutely gorgeous. We liked it so much we painted it in black gloss so everybody could see it. With the chandeliers came through the old chandelier holes. We did everything to say. They go, you can't do that. And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, you have to sprinkle the whole place, and you have to tear the tin down. You have to do fire-rated. And I'm like, well, we can tear it down, and we can put up, the fire separation without a problem. But putting in sprinkler system, I think our bid was between $80,000 and $120,000. We were splitting the money we spent for beer just to pay rent and Jeff Beyer from Bulletproof Construction. But so out of the blue, I think Joe Shanahan, it had to be Joe, thank you Joe for this, but he said, you need to talk to Jerry Michelson from Jam. I'm like, okay. So I called Jerry. He's like, my friend's the fire chief. He's the guy, the commander. Let's go talk to him. And the guy says to me, he's like, that's a tough one. He goes, the ordinance that requires the sprinklers came in 1974 or 78 or something like that. He goes, if you can find somebody, one of the owners from the building that owned it prior to the ordinance, that will tell you that it's the same or similar use today, you're grandfathered out. So my partner and cousin Andy and I get in. We find a guy because the people we were buying from still knew where he was. He lived in a bungalow like up in Edison Park or something like that. One of the, and we call him on a landline because that's the way the world used to work. You millennials, you realize that if you didn't want anybody to get a hold of you, the life was beautiful back then. So anyway, we go up to one of these little bungalows, and we go in, and the blinds are all sort of drawn and closed. 9 o'clock in the morning. He's sitting in his living room in a big lazy boy chair in a blue velour tracksuit. He's got to be about 89 years old. And he's holding a snifter of cognac or brandy. I'm not quite sure. And he's like, you guys want a drink? And we go, no, that's all right. He looked down. He'd wet himself already in his tracksuit. So his tracksuit was dark blue and darker blue. At any rate, so we talked to the guy. He's like, sign whatever you want. He was like, fuck the city, fuck those motherfuckers. I'll do that. He's like, that was the best barrel house I ever owned. I go, what's a barrel house? He goes, well, we were open 24 hours a day. He goes, we were 5 deep at the shift change. So every 12 hours or every 8 hours, shifts would change it was a light industrial neighborhood, so the old factories over there. We do 5 deep. Nickel beers, dime shots, and he goes, he had some shit for a quarter. And he goes, so the guys would get all liquored up and they go upstairs and hit the ladies. And he goes, that's what we did there for like post-prohibition until he sold the place in the 70s. So he signed an affidavit that he didn't even read it, he just signed it. He goes, fuck those motherfuckers, I'll do anything for you guys. You guys are all right. So I got back, so we didn't have to put a sprinkler in, but we did have to change the ceiling. So this is kind of when you take old buildings and deal with old folks. Things were a lot of old folks, not meaning this guy, but just the ordinances get harder and harder to satisfy because all you do is stack them on top of each other. So you can find an old timer that knows how to get from under it. And I swear to God, I'm glad the chief is retired because he probably denied this. So would Jerry. Jerry, sorry, but it's true. At any rate, that's one of those stories. You figure out how to fix something, and it's all people. Those of us that are in the music club business, we're in it because we love music, but it's the people that love music that you want to be around every day, whether they're the artists, the managers, the agents, the lawyers, but most importantly, the fans. That's what we do. So when I met Mike, he was one of those people, that he knows enough about music to get over my bar of you love music. It's sort of those things that's kind of like, you want to work with somebody who's lying about loving music or somebody who knows music. He knows music. It's like the magical James Van Ostel. He knows more about music than anybody I ever met. Right. It's something he tries to keep to himself. But so from a building aspect, that's a story that I can remember. So, Mike, I'm going to ask you, what was the craziest or most fun show you ever went to, and where was it?
Oh, you mean not at the Double Door?
No, Double Door. Pick a show. It could be anywhere. Okay.
Favorite story, favorite concert, craziest concert, went to Woodstock, the 25th anniversary.
Oh, dude, you went to that.
It was amazing. Oh. We actually left on Sunday before the Chili Peppers burned it down. I
just watched that documentary.
Yeah, it was
insane.
Well, my favorite memory was Metallica came out, and they come out.
They're all really, really, really short.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
James is?
No.
Okay.
But Lars is really short.
Yeah.
And the guitar player, Kurt, he is really short. They came to Double to hang out one night. They were so amazingly cool. Sorry, go ahead. They're really cool guys. James didn't show up.
We saw Korn the night before. If it's 250,000 people.
Korn has a really tight connection to Chicago. Their management, everything's
right.
done. So I've never been a huge Korn fan until I went down a cornhole. I did. I said that. This is what happens. You got to keep up. I just, for some reason, a video came up and I loved it. And I went back and I just started watching Korn. I'm like, okay, it wasn't my thing then, but God, they were good at it. So anyway, keep going.
Yeah, I love Korn too. James came out and he said the weatherman's saying there's going to be a really bad storm coming through. And he's like, so we don't know what we should do, but I told him to fuck off. We're going to play anyways. So he came out, sang a song. Sure enough, the sky turned black, temperature dropped like 15 degrees, and it was August, so we all felt great. But played a song, and by the end of the song, the sky had gone by, and that was it. So that's my big memory.
That's cool. I was at the, they used to call it Tinley Park, where we used to be when they first built it.
The World.
The World Theater. Matter of fact, the guy who built it, what was his name?
Gierzak?
Gierzaks. The Gierzaks.
Yeah.
So I was in another life. I was doing this video streaming thing for Double Door. The Gierzaks were really interested into it, so I got interested in it. So we talked. Maybe he was going to invest in me. Anyway, we kind of just liked each other because he likes music. So I went to Neil Young, and at Neil Young, it was one of those storm warning things. So the headliner, I think it was a weird show.
I think that was the Horde show. The one
it
with
was.
the storm,
You're right.
Where it was a deluge, and Neil Young turned around his PAs.
I actually think it was. It was Les Claypool played right before him, and before that was Beck. It was something weird like that because it was a weird lineup. I thought, this is so cool. It's not. It was the Horde Fest. You're right. So at any rate, the rain starts coming. We were in a box because of Gierzaks, like the owner's box, but it was so cool that I had to go downstairs. It rained so hard that on the grass, the water was probably 4 inches deep going down the aisles. Like people were standing on their seats, and Neil Young goes, they want us to stop. And and the front of house went off. They turned the monitors around and just played singing. The entire show was through the monitors with the stage volume, so just their amps, and he's screaming. And it was like a hurricane. What was it? It was one. And it was like it was so apropos. There was that thing like only Neil Young would pull this off in a storm, singing about a storm, and it was unbelievable. People were losing their minds. The best part was like all these young kids sliding down the moat with no clothes on. A lot of wet T-shirts and everything. It was incredible time. So I will tell you 2 most apropos shows I ever saw. I saw Gwar on Halloween at the Vic. You just have to stay out of spewage range. And then the other one was David Lee Roth at Metro on April Fool's Day. See if you can beat that.
No way.
So, wow, the Woodstock. Just watch that documentary. Speaking of documentaries, 2 really good ones you should check out. Obviously, Summer of Soul. I just watched it. I liked it so much. I just put on the beginning and watched it again. I watched it 2 times through. I've never done that with a movie ever in my life. Summer of Soul. And the other one is Rumble. It's a documentary called Rumble, and it's about the influence of Native Americans in rock and roll, and it's mind-boggling. They've been so shortchanged on everything, this one included, how the black and Native American community combined. I mean, Jimi Hendrix is half Cherokee, and it's like the list is enormous. You don't even know these guys. Oh, they're black. No, they're freaking not. They're Native American. And what they brought to rock and roll is from the very, very beginning. The old bluesmen were learning riffs from Native Americans. So there you go, documentaries. You know what? What do you want? You telling me I'm done? James, the now somewhat critical James Van Osdol is telling me that he's got to move on.
I'm just providing some hints, some guidelines, some direction.
We do have a show to put on.
If you don't have a direction to go in now, maybe we wrap up. If you do, keep going. It's up to you.
The reasonable James Van Osdol has now convinced me that it's time to wrap up. So, James, who's playing with us today? You booked them, and I've listened to them, and they're incredible.
So, okay, this is the Sunday sessions that are happening at the Double Door Space. They're bi-weekly. You can roll in, just pop by, see some live music on a Sunday afternoon. By the time people hear this on Tuesday, this will have already happened. But, man, what do they miss? Cinco de Gatos, opening up, a band that launched in the 1990s, recorded a full album with Steve Albini at Electrical Audio. They're fantastic. Great, cool, post-rock indie stuff. David Singer and the Sweet Science are playing at 2:30 today as we're recording this. They've been around for a while. If you remember bands like Fix Your Wagon and Kid Million, this is what those bands evolved into. David Singer at the core of that, one of Chicago's great songwriters. And Coyote Man, they are a prog instrumental metal band, and they are the real deal. They're closing it down at 3:30. They're fucking great.
All right, the best thing about the Double Door lineups is just what James described, is that you're going to see a little bit of everything. Right. So we'll see you in 2 weeks with the I'm running out of of descriptive adjectives for James Van Osdol. But we will see you in 2 weeks. And Mike, work on your story. Your story's incredible. I know you have a million more.
I got to work on it.
No, not work on them. Bring more next time.
That's right. I'll bring more.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Double Door Podcast. It's available on the place you're listening to it right now, obviously, but also everywhere else. If you like what you hear, let a friend know to subscribe. The Double Door Sunday sessions happen bi-weekly at the new Double Door space at 1050 West Wilson in the Uptown neighborhood of Chicago. You can find out more information by following the Double Door Facebook page or visiting doubledoor.com. I'm James Van Osdol. Thanks for listening.